Hello and welcome to another episode of Monte's Musings. Today we're going to be going over the announcement that was made by the Overwatch League for the 2019 season, detailing a lot of changes in format that will be coming forward and scheduling as well. So this is going to break down a lot of the announcement, what I think about it. We're going to make some inferences based on the information given about some other aspects that are probably going to be affected about the scheduling and the format overall. Also, in the coming couple of weeks, there's probably going to be a lot of roster announcements and sort of team branding announcements. So because the window is now open for all teams to sign free agents, so I'll be making some more videos. So be sure to subscribe to this channel if you're new here, and you'll get a lot of information about all of the roster movements, how this might affect the teams, and my analysis of them. As well as we probably will be doing some more oversights once the new teams are announced. Thorne and I will probably talk to some of the new staff of the team about their roster building process, the logic behind some of their branding and everything like that. So it should be very interesting to get a sort of first take on some of these new franchises. So be sure to keep an eye out. But now let's get into this blog post released by the Overwatch League today. So right now, as probably most of you know, but in case you don't, we are expanding the field of teams from 12 to 20 for the second season, so it's a massive expansion. And that means that the Atlantic Division is going to acquire Atlanta, Paris, Toronto, and Washington, D.C., and the Pacific Division is going to acquire Chengdu, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, and Vancouver. So what this means is each division will now have 10 teams within it, which is going to be important here when we talk about some of the format changes. I think one of the biggest changes that you're going to see immediately is that the 20 teams are going to be playing 28 matches over the same 4 5-week stages. So the stages will be the same length of time, but each team last season played 40 matches as opposed to 28. So each team is going to drastically reduce the number of matches that they are going to play individually. And they are also only going to be playing 7 matches per stage instead of 10. And also, on top of that, Blizzard is now saying that teams will be playing 0, 1, or 2 matches a week, as opposed to last season when each of the teams was playing 2 matches every week. I think this is great. Fewer games should lead to, I think, more hype when certain teams meet up, because some of them will only, looks like, meet up once per season, which we'll get into in just a second. But I also think a lot of the players were complaining about burnout. It was very hard to prepare for 2 opponents every single week of competition. And Blizzard wants these teams to visit their home cities more, so they're going to be giving them weeks off within the stage. And whether they go to their home city or perhaps they're going to take a couple more rest days or prepare for their opponents for the following week a little more in-depth. I think this is going to be really good for the level of competition from each team overall. Have a little bit more time to prepare, a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more time to relax so they're not quite as stressed out, and they can really, really focus on upcoming opponents. 2 match weeks will still be hard where you have to prepare, but it's not going to be every single week, so I really like that. Also, with the 28 matches per week, considering that we now have 10 teams in every division, I think we can pretty safely infer that each team will be playing the 9 other teams in their division twice, so a divisional round, double round robin, and then the 10 teams in the opposite division once for a round robin with the opposite division. So that equals 28 teams in total, 18 within your division, 10 against the opposite division. So I'm really liking this because I think when we had teams would be playing most of the time 4, sometimes only 3 times last season against every opponent. And that led to, I think, a lot of anti-hype, especially as we got deeper into the season. There weren't as many questions for fans. It wasn't like a really unique opportunity to see these 2 teams go head-to-head. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And I think it'll be really good overall. So there's also a change to the stage finals, which says they are returning in 2019 after stages 1, 2, and 3. Notice not 4, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The top 8 teams from each stage will make the stage finals, which is expanding to become a seeded playoff bracket. So this is going to be good. This will probably mean that it'll be the weekend after the conclusion of every stage. So if you remember last season, we sort of jammed it into an extra day on Sundays. But when we're going to be playing an 8-team bracket, we're going to have 4 quarterfinals, 2 semifinals, and a final. So we're going to have 7 different matches. So that's probably going to take up, I would say minimum 3 days. You do 4, 2, and 1. Maybe you do 4 and then 2 and 1 on the second day. So it would be more like our stage finals, doing the semis and the finals all in one day. Could be possible, but regardless, looks like this is likely to happen a week after, which should give some teams a little better opportunity to rest if you're not in the playoffs, or and also to prepare if you are in the playoffs for the opponents that you are going to be facing. Also, I think it's really good that we don't have stage 4 stage finals. I wish we hadn't had the stage 4 stage finals this last year, because the teams that were going to the actual Overwatch League playoffs were obviously not motivated to play their best in those stage finals, because they don't want to reveal strategies to their opponents right before they're going into the finals, the playoffs that actually matter. Obviously, it was good for the Dallas Fuel, who got there and who were already eliminated from playoff contention, to show their best. But overall, I think it's kind of a waste of time, and it is going to be the teams not putting their best foot forward. And it is going to be replaced by something that's actually really exciting that we're going to get down to here in a second. There's also the fact that in the stage finals, the divisional winners, so whoever's on top of the division after that stage, will be in the number 1 and number 2 slots respectively, and then the next 6 teams in the standings, regardless of division. I don't really know how I feel about the divisional winners automatically taking the first and second seeds, especially when the Pacific Division turned out to be a lot weaker last year than the Atlantic Division. I think you should just take the top 8 teams regardless of what division, and seed them according to their record. But I'm not going to get my way on this one, it looks like, and it is, I think, something they're doing to mimic many American sports leagues. Now, we also have the AllStar Summer Vacation. So if you remember this last year, the last event we did with Overwatch League a couple months back was the AllStar event. And now it's going to be slotted in between stages 2 and 3. So right in the middle of the season, apparently there's going to be a longer break between stages 2 and 3, and the All-Star match will be moved in. This is more in line with a lot of American sports, where there is an All-Star break in the middle. I think this is going to be better. One of the things that I know the players and the teams really wanted, and frankly, I wanted too, was a longer break in the middle of the season. Because many of the players want to go visit their home countries, visit their families, and there just wasn't enough time in a lot of these stage breaks to meaningfully go back to Asia or Europe in particular for any amount of time and actually take a break, while still being able to come back and practice for a week or so before the start of the next stage. So I think that putting the All-Star game in there is going to be really good. Should be a fun interlude in the middle of the season, and then also allow the players who aren't at All-Stars to get some rest time. And hopefully the players at All-Stars will be scheduled, so they're going to get an adequate amount of rest time as well. Because you don't want the best players to be punished for having to go to All-Stars, right? You want them to have fun and then still be able to take a break. So I think that's another really good change. And I think this is one of the most exciting things that we're going to wrap up with right now, is the playoffs play-in. So if you've been watching a lot of my content, especially Oversight, I've talked a lot about playoff points and having recency bias towards the end of the season, so that you get teams who are on hot streaks at the end a chance to be involved in the playoffs, instead of rewarding teams who may be doing very well in the early parts, but as we get closer to the meta that will actually be taking place in the playoffs at the end of the season, the overall league playoffs, not the stage playoffs, but the overall league playoffs, that you don't have a team that was really hot in one meta that no longer exists, who's been on a downturn towards the end of the season, get a slot over a team that's really, really good right now, and that'll be much more exciting to see in the actual season playoffs. So, needless to say, Overwatch League is not using my system, but they are going to do something which I think is good. And it is a little clearer, even if I don't like it quite as much as the system that I was proposing. So the postseason, first off, is going to get bigger. So this last time we had 6 teams in the overall playoffs, which in a 12-team league, taking 50% of them, you can't really take 8. You're not going to take 2/3 of your league into the playoffs. So I think it was the right call at the time. But now that we have 20 teams, there's an opportunity to expand it to 8. That way we don't get buys, which in my opinion suck. I don't think anybody should be getting a bye in a playoff run. So this means we're going to have 8 teams moving forward. So it should be presumably they don't say, but it should be a pretty standard quarterfinal, semifinal, final bracket, I assume. And again, it's going to be the divisional champions are going to be taken. So the first place of each division and the next 4 teams in the standing, regardless of division. But the final 2 teams, and this is what's cool, they're going to make playoffs as a result of a play-in tournament. So instead of the Stage 4 finals, which sucked, we're going to get a really exciting tournament where the 7th through 12th place teams, so the 7th and 8th seed, won't automatically make playoffs. So even the 12th place team is going to have an opportunity to go through a bracket. So it will be a 6-team bracket. Now, again, somebody is probably going to get a bye here if we infer, because there are only 6 teams, that probably the 7th and 8th teams will get a bye into the semifinals. But it is a really exciting opportunity for a team that's playing very, very well in a meta that claws their way back up into like 11th or 12th place to be able to go on like a Cinderella run and make it into one of the last 2 slots in the playoffs. So that's really cool, and I really like that. And that's the kind of thing you want, I think, at the end of the season, is that little bit of extra excitement, and also to have a meaningful end to Stage 4 before there's probably another couple week break while teams prepare for the overall playoffs. So hope that explains some things. I think these are really good changes for the most part that the league is making. Very excited about Overwatch League Season 2 coming up soon. And, not so soon. They announced it will be taking place on February 14th as part of that announcement. So we'll have to wait until February. But again, we'll be covering a lot of off-season stuff on this channel, so please remember to subscribe if you're interested in that kind of analysis of the teams and a lot of the roster moves and staffing moves moving forward. So thanks for watching. Until next time.